Oh God, I love you, Ebola-chan. Oh, but you need to move over because I've got a new waifu. I've got the new woo flu. Oh, Corona's my girl now. Oh, she's the one dealing out death and destruction around the globe. How are you doing, Chad? Hopefully you don't have any cough or cold symptoms. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in a cage. I'm going to have to call the Chinese authorities. You're going to lose some social credit points. You're going to be hauled off to a camp if you've been keeping up with the news regarding everything going on in the glorious land of China. I know. We shouldn't get too excited. Every time we get super excited, nothing ever happens. That's the thing I've always heard. We had MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. What did that affect? 2,500 people? Had a 30 to 40% kill count. Then we had SARS, and that was 8,500 people affected. Then there's good old Ebola-chan, just, spreading love around the world. But now we're dealing with some new shit. And I'd just like to point out some of the differences that are going on now. Just some of the fun, quirky things that I've noticed happen in the span of, and I want to really emphasize this point, the span of a week. Now, when news of the Wu flu, which is what I've dubbed it, I don't care what they want to call it, the coronavirus, really? Well, when the Wu flu first got some news, some international heat behind it, and those journalists were first reporting on it, what were we told? Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Only a few hundred people, 150 people infected, just one death. Not even 1% kill count. It's just the cold. It's related to SARS, but it's in the family. It's like the sniffles. You have nothing to worry about. Just in Wuhan, down by the animal market in Henan. Not a big deal. You guys need to relax. It's just a case of the Chinese sniffles. And then, of course, the very next day, okay, well, maybe it wasn't just 150 people. Maybe it's like 250 now. And sure, it's 6 people dead. So the kill count's now above 2%. But it's just in Wuhan. It hasn't spread anywhere. Well, except for 8 other major Chinese cities. But that's nothing to worry about. And then another day goes by. Okay, I know you guys are mad at us, but we're China and we love you. And maybe we were a little overconfident. It's still only 300 people infected and maybe 8 or 9 dead. So we're now getting up to a 3% kill count. But you need to relax. It's only in China and Japan and Taiwan and Thailand and South Korea and maybe in Australia. Oh, and there's that one guy in Seattle, Washington who also has it. But just relax. Oh, and there might be 4 people in Scotland. Oh, and somebody in France and the British hitchhiker. Yeah, he has it too. And by the way, Britain might have it as well. But just, it's okay. It's just the Chinese sniffles. There's nothing to fucking worry about. It's not like we're freaking out over here in China. This is just like SARS. You remember SARS when they locked down 5 Chinese cities with a population of upwards of 30 million people? I remember that. That was just like yesterday. It's totally normal for a nation to quarantine 30 million people. And when I say quarantine, I mean, quarantine, like the word you're thinking of. As in, we're not going to let you leave, and we're not going to let anyone else come in. And we're going to enforce that with guns. No railway, no roadway, no airway, no seaway, no way. You're going to sit your ass down. And that 5 Chinese cities things, by the way, chat, that was 3 Chinese cities just 4 or 5 hours ago. Now it's 5 of them. I even, did I do a little map? Did I do a cute little map to try to give you an idea? This map, by the way, already outdated. There are more cases. We're up into 600 something now. By the way, these are the official Chinese numbers. I'll tell you why that's so funny later on. These are the official Chinese numbers, and they're already outdated. But at the time, 584 infected, 17 dead. You can show the spread of it to different countries. Oh, fuck, I forgot. Saudi Arabia. Raise your hand. You're part of the party now, too. So it's spreading all over the place, hopping around, locking down some cities. How are they locking down those cities? Well, armed guards and gas masks at the local railway station. Oh, you want to jump on G60? Is that it? Oh, you want to go from Wuhan to Zhejiang? Uh, oh, sorry, no. You sit your fucking ass down. All right, you hear me, motherfucker? It's time to take your goddamn temperature. Where do you think you're going, Chang? I'll tell you where you're not going, past those gates. Nobody is. Oh, these sneaky little Chinese bastards. Out there pulling a typhoid Mary. Chinese tourist says she evaded coronavirus checks to fly to France. Chinese embassy in Paris urges the citizens to comply after woman tells of traveling plans from Wuhan. Yes, apparently Miss Peng here didn't like the idea that she'd have to cancel her Paris trip, decided to go over to good old France. And of course, to get there, she took a bunch of medication so she could hide her temperature and her fever so they wouldn't quarantine her. Of course, she had to go through airport in the UK, make a little stop off first, apparently for some reason, and then on her way to France, where she giddily posted on social media about how she tricked all those stupid motherfuckers into allowing her into a country while she was sick with a new contagious disease. You know, I've been paying attention to this as this ridiculous shit goes on, and I made my own little map. Spent a good day and a half. I hope you like it, chat. A lot of work went into this. Now, you can't tell because it's a giant red circle, but that giant red fucking circle, that would be Wuhan at the dead center. And the farthest city away that's been quarantined, 200 miles away, is at the very edge of the radius. So I thought, well, fuck. If the very farthest city away is 200 miles, then that means any other city within a 200-mile radius should be equally susceptible to being at risk. And when you fill that circle in, that's a pretty goddamn big area, isn't it? Now, why is it that the city on the outer edge and Wuhan in the center, why do none of the connecting cities around the major highways, why aren't they quarantined? Well, apparently somebody beat me to that by creating this, a railway map. Wouldn't you know it? Fun fact, crazy fact about Wuhan. It is the central go-through for a majority of railway. In fact, when you look at the infection zones all over China and how it spread so incredibly fast, it's because the disease for about a week or so doesn't really present, or when it does presents as a cold or flu-like symptom, just a mild cough, a little sickness, a little bit of a fever, plenty of time to get on a fucking train. Nothing better than having a highly contagious human-to-human transmittable disease and sitting in a fucking train car with people for a 3-hour ride. That's a good idea. So there's Wuhan, that big circle in the middle, starting to make a little sense. And those little stops correspond to cities that are getting quarantined. It's almost like China maybe perhaps kind of has an inkling that they're fucked and they just don't want to be outright open about it. I know. Oh my God, you're getting too excited, Jim. Not that many people are sick. Well, it depends what numbers you're listening to. Now, the Chinese say about 660 at this point have the Wu flu. But then other people are doing calculations, and they're ranging all over the place. One scientist said, well, I think it would have to be more like 1,700 people based on the infection rate going through international travel. To hit this many countries and get this many people sick in different countries, you'd have to have at least this number of people sick to spread out to the airports. Then somebody else came out and said, no, it's more like 4,000 people have the Wu flu. And now in one of the more recent articles in The Guardian talking about everything that's going on, now some of these think tanks and different medical institutes are updating the number to 10,000. And that's just in Wuhan. Now again, remember what I said earlier. MERS, 2,500 people sick. SARS, 8,500 people sick. Now there's speculation just in Wuhan, 10,000 people are sick. Why, it makes perfect sense then that the Chinese are scared, that the Chinese citizens fear the government is keeping information about the coronavirus secret, as critics are silenced and official updates about the outbreak are quickly deleted from social media. By the way, that's true. I'll show you some interesting evidence about how they're handling this on social media. The Chinese government has attempted to be transparent. Boy, that's funny. When have they ever been transparent about the new coronavirus outbreak, sharing updates about case numbers? But citizens are wary, remembering the last time these dumb fucking cunts lied to the world about dumb shit and 800 people died. Well, I didn't read that verbatim, but I think that's the gist of that bullet point. Also, social media posts with updates about the outbreak are being quickly deleted. Now, I'd like to say, that Wuhan itself has been under quarantine for what? Chat, what is it? 24 hours? 30 hours? It's not even really been 2 days yet. Take a look at this headline. Residents of China's virus hit Wuhan call for support. The bottom sentence really brings it home. People in the lockdown city fear food shortages. They're already hoarding. It hasn't even been 2 days yet in Wuhan. And people are fucking rushing the grocery stores, the pharmacies, and the banks. Do you know that citizens in Wuhan are referring to Wuhan as Zombieland? That's the nickname they came up with for their city. Why would we call it Zombieland? I'll bring you up to point pretty quickly. I don't know. I'm getting the feeling, watching some of this play itself out, that, and hear me out, chat, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I've gone Alex Jones. Maybe I've jumped off a ledge of insanity here. I don't really care, but I'm getting the wild feeling that China is panicking. I'm getting the wild feeling that they're suppressing the numbers of people not only ill but dead. I think they're scared shitless because maybe this disease is a little more lethal than they're letting on. And that's why they've gone to the fucking trouble of quarantining 30 million people. That's why they're shutting down social media posts. That's why they're not letting travel in and out of any of these places. That's why they have gone so far for the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year that's coming up, to cancel celebrations in Beijing. So they're canceling the biggest celebration of the year for them, the biggest travel holiday of the year for them, and quarantining major fucking areas and massive amounts of their population. Seems like it's a little bit more than the sniffles. To give you a parallel, chat, one article had said that, initially during the 3 cities being quarantined, it would be 25 million people, roughly the population of Florida. Now, I want you to ask yourself, if you woke up tomorrow morning and on CNN or in a newspaper or on Fox News, you heard the headline, "New disease found in Florida. Don't worry, it's just like the common cold, but the president has decided to quarantine the entire state with the use of the military. No one's allowed in or out. Also, we're restricting any social media postings people within the quarantined area can openly make." What would your reaction to that be? Would you think, oh, well, that's normal? Quarantining an entire fucking state, putting 25 million people in a box, that's not a big deal. It's just a case of the colds. We've been through this before. Let me give you some health tips to survive the coming onslaught of this deadly disease by sharing with you the story of one of the infected patients, who they speculate is infected. Perhaps he doesn't have it. More testing would be necessary, but this was the tourist backpacker in Thailand. He's been sick now for 3 weeks. His symptoms developed as lower respiratory problems, developing into pneumonia and bronchitis that was untreatable. As in, none of the medications that would normally work for those diseases, they had no effect. Because of that, in the span of about 3 weeks, his family has said he's lost 70 pounds, and they had to pump upwards of 4 pounds, 70 ounces of liquid from his lungs, and fly him on a special plane at low altitudes, because if they went too high, his lungs would fucking explode. So you get sick with this disease, and after that initial week of being sick, if you're still sick, and you start getting a bad cough, and there's a little bit of phlegm in there, you're fucked, because nothing's going to make it go away. That's when it gets bad. And that initial report of 17 fatalities that the official tally from the government of China is giving people, that was all within the same region. And yet now we are, today, again, every hour it updates. Today again, now we have a death outside of that region, meaning that it has to be railway travel that has spread it from region to region. What an insidious little disease. A good week to 2 weeks before you really start getting those symptoms. And I want all you Seattle fags, all the people over on the West Coast, to understand something. The guy that came through who was infected, that went through the airport, went through the terminal, was on the airplane, took a taxi, did his grocery shopping, walked around his neighborhood, went to the fucking mall, ate at restaurants, did all that shit. He showed up on Wednesday. He didn't go to his doctor until Sunday. So if he has the Wu flu, he was walking around Seattle and bumping into people for 4 fucking days uncontested. They think he's only had close proximity to 16 people. I guarantee you it's 100 times that. He was stuck in a metal tube in the air with people. He was in an airport with people. He was in vehicles with people. He was walking around and cajoling with people. 4 days. And they can't even explain, if you listen to the CDC, they can't even explain the mechanisms behind how it works. Oh, that's been a fun story. First it was, this disease originated from an open-air animal market in Henan. It's an area of the Henan animal market, or whatever the fuck it's called, in Wuhan. Then it was a wet market. Then there was talk about it being bats, and then snakes, and then rats. They couldn't really come to a conclusion of what animal it might have been. What's making people sick? What exactly is the vector that's getting people infected with this fucking tenacious disease? But when it first started, they said, don't worry, you can only get it from animals. It's not human to human. And then they said, okay, you can get it from people. But it's only certain ways you can get it from people. We don't really know exactly how. And now it's airborne. Now it's, well, maybe it's spit and phlegm. Maybe it's touching directly. Maybe it's breathing on you. Maybe if you cough or sneeze, you're going to give it to somebody. But we don't know exactly at what point when you have the disease that transmissibility is happening. I mean, there's one case where somebody infected 14 hospital workers. So you tell me, you pick your poison on which version of that nightmare you want. So 14 healthcare workers get affected. That either means this thing is transmissible through basic bitch protection, in which case I hope you have a great gas mask or you're fucked, or it's transmissible when you're not really showing symptoms. And he got somebody or one or two hospital workers infected before he got really sick, and they infected the other hospital workers. What a fucking nightmare. When's the issue? The World Health Organization said that this is a Chinese emergency, but not a world emergency yet, and yet the CDC is quoted as saying that they're not getting relevant information from the Chinese authority to make an assessment. You have two different groups of medical experts who can't come to a similar conclusion. Now, somebody was being cynical earlier, and maybe they were correct in saying this, that when it comes to the World Health Organization, China has some pull, and maybe that they don't want to just go outright and say, hey, China just fucked up big time. I don't know. All I know is, just based on the actions that are happening right now, it makes me suspect, just a tiny bit, that China is well aware that this is much worse than they're letting on, and either it's embarrassment or shame, or they just don't want to take the responsibility of having to admit that, once again, we're in the 20s, and here comes a fucking plague. Can somebody explain to me, is this cyclical history? Is the Matrix broken? Is there a glitch somewhere? Is Neo gonna pop out of my fucking shower? Morpheus, are you hiding under a sheet somewhere? Why is it in the 20s of every fucking century shit goes down? You got shit like the Spanish flu, you've got typhoid fever, you've got the fucking great, the Black Plague, 1800s, 1900s, 1700s. Why is it the 20s are such a magnet for terrible shit to happen? Oh, and of course we're in the year of the rat. That's perfect. Is that some big cosmic kick in the balls? Yeah, you having a little laugh there, Jehovah? Up there having a giggle? Oh, let's look at some American reactions. By the way, what are the tourists doing? And they've got some interesting insights into what's happening from the Americans in Wuhan group. How the fuck is it under control when they're literally spraying the city with disinfectant from planes? Just a fun fact, there are videos out there of empty Chinese streets being sprayed with, I don't know what chemical it is, but definitely something. But this is the first time I heard that they were using airplanes to do it. I'm sure Alex Jones, his erection is hard as fucking diamonds right now. And I love the follow-up, by the way. They'll kill us all before they let it spread more in China. Americans worry that the Chinese are going to literally kill them so they can't spread it more. And my personal favorite, also be careful what you post. The Wii police got me. I was talking about the Wu flu too much and the Chinese police came and got me. So if you come across anything on social media related to this, chances are it's going to be taken down. And if it's not taken down and you're Chinese and you post it, they're going to come after you. What would they be posting that would bring people's attention down upon them? Well, infected people seen dead in the streets in quarantined Chinese virus city. What are they talking about? What do you mean dead in the streets? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Let's look at a few videos. Hey, here's a Wuhan hospital. How's that look for you, chat? Just drink it in. But what videos exactly are being posted of people dying in the streets? Oh, it must be these videos.
恐不恐慌？严不严重？看你们还戴不戴口罩？都当是小事。可能是现在武汉市是个么情况？当然。
我们小区后头那个小学，那个德才小学后头的小区那里。
伙计，乖乖起话唠嗑，老子亲眼看到太早了一个，亲眼看到的啊！这是我怎么去了，缥缈到的，伙计。太早了！
七里庙啊，七里庙车站这里了，走到万华里，倒了啊！你晓得怎么回事的？
Hey, but it's not all bad news. If you're a big fan of the Wagey KG, if you like your job at Amazon, I'd like to introduce you to the Quora Cube. It's what we're going to use to haul your ass off of planes when you cough too much. You know, that giant glass coffin that we're just going to shove you right into. Yeah, there are a lot of videos. A lot of videos of people just falling over in the streets, just dropping, as people in, biosecurity fucking outfits pick them up, and I don't even know where they're bringing them. You saw the picture of the hospital. Not a lot of room to maneuver. So I'm not sure exactly where those people are going to be going. Probably not someplace pleasant. That's what you get. Oh, did you like our bat soup, miss? Oh, her tummy's so full she took a nap in the restaurant. No, you take a nap. You just lay down on the floor. Let's talk about some fucked up shit they're not going to let you talk about on Weibo, or Weeaboo, or Weeaboo, whatever they call their fucking social media app. Can't talk about it on the TikToks. From 2017, inside the Chinese lab, poised to study the world's most dangerous pathogens. This is a one and only lab. There are going to be more by the year 2025, but the very first one's being built. Guess where it's being built, chat? The very first biohazard level 4 facility is being built at a special university located in the heart of Wuhan. What? Now, if you were to take that location and, I don't know, put it on a map, the Chinese Academy of Science, where the biohazard level 4 facility is located, and then trace a route directly to the Henan seafood market, where they said this originated, why, you'd see it was only a distance of 8.7 miles. 8.7 miles between the most dangerous pathogens on Earth and the start of a new mystery disease that seems to spread all around the world. In a city that's been quarantined with every other city around it being quarantined. Fuck shit, that makes me think a little bit. I'm starting to go, over here. The old noggin's jogging a little bit. Biohazard level 4 facility, right across the bridge from it, the ground zero of a new disease emerging. Maybe one of the scientists, maybe one of those medical guys, really liked him some bat fucking soup. Got so excited for a delicious round of bat soup, he hopped in his little Pinto mobile and drove 8.7 miles down to the open air market, where he spread a disease that's killing everyone. That would be embarrassing. I wouldn't want to admit that. I see a lot of thinking thoughts in the chat right now. What a coincidence. What a short distance. It almost makes you wonder if somebody might have fucked up a little bit. Didn't get clean when they left. Forgot to use some of that Puracil on their hands. Wash behind the ears. You got to remember to wash behind the ears when you're dealing with super death. Start the fucking apocalypse. And so in the span of a week, we went from 100 people sick to quarantining 30 million people and a disease showing up in 12 different countries, of which not information, related to stopping people from dying badly has been shared properly with the CDC, while the WHO is sitting on their fat, dumb, international globalist asses not doing a fucking thing, and people are trying to downplay it like it's just SARS again, even though we're already getting upward estimates of 10,000 people infected when SARS internationally only hit 8,500. And this isn't happening over the course of, I don't know, fucking 3 months. It's happening over the course of 7 days. So it's got me to wondering, is this it? Is this our girl? Is she going to do it? Is she going to do the impossible, dream the impossible? Is she going to seize her dreams? Is our little Corona-chan going to spread the woo flu across the globe and purify and purge humanity? I don't know. It's sort of like the boomer apocalypse. A lot of the people that have been infected and are really dealing with the harsher symptoms seem to be people at least at the tail end of 30 and upwards of 80 years old, or those who are immunocompromised. Immunocompromised is a nice way of saying your immune system's fucked up. Like AIDS or HIV. Oh, wait, where did this disease show up in America? Oh, fuck, that's right, on the West Coast. Hey, remember those new laws California put in place where you could give people AIDS and HIV and not get in trouble? Because they wanted sex workers to feel okay? The whole subculture of gift givers running around fucking each other in the ass without a condom on, spreading AIDS to each other? They're all what you'd call immunocompromised. So what do you think happens to a population of, infected AIDS patients when the flu shows up in California? I think we're going to need to make a real big quilt for this one. Oh, I can't stop following this. I'll be honest with you. I've been paying attention to this shit now for 2 days, 3 days, as it was starting to pick up steam. And every single fucking article that has come out in regards to it gets worse and worse by the day. You cannot look at the reaction by the Chinese government and think to yourself that they are releasing accurate, factual numbers. They are not. I refuse to believe that only 600 some odd people have been infected, and I certainly don't believe it's only 18 dead. There's just no way. Now, some scientists are saying it is related to SARS enough in that it's dangerous, but it's also different enough that it can spread much more easily, which is how they're accounting for their speculated numbers of anywhere from 1,700 people to 10,000 fucking people. But I think the real indicator of how bad this is going to be when it comes to our little sweet Corona-chan is what's going to happen in the foreign nations that it's showing up as more and more cases start to pop up. If it really is in Japan and South Korea and Thailand and Taiwan and America and Saudi Arabia and France and Scotland and Europe, if it's all over the fucking place, as people are speculating that it might already be in Brazil and a few other places, if it's really popping up, how quickly will it spread? Because while China might lie about their numbers and they'll fib because they don't want to be embarrassed and they want to save face and act like they're in control, if it really starts to kick off in another place, I have a feeling those numbers are going to be much more factual. They'll be much more accurate, and they'll be a better indicator of just how bad it is. Maybe it's nowhere near as bad as SARS. Maybe that death toll will stick at 1% and everybody will forget about it. But if it continues to grow, this small percentage throws you off, but if a lot of people get infected, that's a lot of dead people. And then you've got to clean it up, because if you don't clean up all those corpses, then you've got a whole other host of fucking problems coming your way as secondary related diseases start to pop up from having dead people everywhere. Oh, thank you, China. Round of applause. Thank you, China. Well done. Well done. Cursing the earth with your incompetence. No, I don't even care. This thing could, maybe 18 people is all it's ever going to kill. I'm never letting this slip. You're not going to make me forget about this. You can't tell me the point of origin for this fucking disease is 8 miles away from one of your high-end bio-laboratories dedicated to studying the dangerous pathogens that are found all over the earth. That just seems a little incredulous when it comes to giving you the slack that that's not somehow fucking related. Who knows what crazy shit's gonna come from this fucking region? Spreading death and disease everywhere. 8 miles away from ground zero. Just a coinky-dink. Oh God, I want to read you. I'm going to pull it up. I'm just going to pull it up. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to read you what the CDC said. This is they say it in a very political way, but goddamn, if you hear it, there's no way you can't tune in immediately to what they're trying to say. CDC advisors concerned about lack of basic information about the new Wuhan coronavirus. Advisors to the CDC say a lack of data from China about the Wuhan flu is curtailing international efforts to quell the outbreak. While the advisors commend the Chinese researchers for mapping the virus's genome in just a few weeks, they said there's a glaring lack of basic epidemiology, I can't say this word, epidemiological evidence about who's getting infected with the virus and how it's spreading. I fucking love this. This is Epi 101, said Dr. William Schaffner, medical director of the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases and a longtime CDC advisor. I don't want to denigrate our Chinese colleagues, but when information is not presented clearly, you have to wonder. I want you to understand, chat, what he just said. A fucking advisor to the CDC quite literally just said, it really makes you think. It's in an article form. You have to wonder. Really gets the noggin jogging, is what the fucking CDC advisor's saying about China's inability to come forward with that vital goddamn information. I'd say we learned really two things when it comes to the woo flu. The first is don't trust the Chinese. They lie through their teeth. Any number they give you, it's a lie. And if they tell you everything's okay, that's definitely a lie. But the really important takeaway is number two. I can't stress this enough. Whether or not this is actually the big one, the shit hits the fan scenario, or if it's just a flash in the pan, the incompetence that we've seen in the last week should be enough of an indicator to all of you to know that we are well and truly fucked when the big one does actually occur. They sat on their ass and tried to pretend it wasn't as bad as it was, while their high-speed rail system spread this disease all over their country. They waited to inform other nations about how bad it was until tourists and people coming back home from vacations spread it to other nations. When a real big shitstorm of a disease does pop away, when it really comes down the pipeline and we get our apocalyptic scenario, this adventure with the Wu flu, with Corona-chan, should stand as a sterling, shining example of how well and truly fucked we are. Because these people can't contain it. They can't contain it quarantining 5 cities. They can't contain it with checkpoints and thermometers. They can't contain it using the airports and airport security of allied nations around the world. When a real bad new disease with weird symptoms and a bit of a gestation period pops up, they have no way of stopping it. So even if this isn't the big one, it's a nice dry practice run to show you what the big one will look like. Because it'll start just like this, and it'll spread just like this. And you'll have different organizations arguing with each other, like WHO and CDC, about how bad it is. And different government agencies talking about different numbers of how many might be infected, how many might be dead, what way it might spread, where it might have originated from. And as they're sitting there in their bureaucratic bullshit red tape, it spreads and propagates itself in different populations, in different areas, in different countries. And by the time they finally have a cohesive, solid, singular story to give the world, it'll be all too late. And that is why, personally to me, this has been one of the more fascinating things to watch starting this year. What a way to start the 20s off. All right, let's see. Somebody said the death count is up. Oh, here we go. China virus death toll now at 25. Up from 18. 25 dead, 800 infected. Oh, we're almost into the 4 digits with the infection rate. But again, it seems to affect mostly the elderly and the immunocompromised. Let's see what some of the other updates currently going on are. Chinese outbreak could be 10 times that of SARS. That's coming from Media Times. Again, talking, it already jumped. I told you 800 were infected. Literally in a minute, it's already jumped again. Now it's 25 dead, 830 confirmed cases. In the span of fucking 3 minutes, 30 more people are now being officially reported. Oh, what is going on? I just want to see, has it popped up in any other... Oh, here we go, folks. Brace yourselves. Japan now has more cases. They're now confirming the second case of Wuhan virus in Tokyo. So Japan has now doubled the amount of cases that they've got of the virus in their country. I don't know if that's a healthcare worker or if that's somebody that was on a plane with them. Okay, I think that's officially up to date. Oh, Britain, I got some bad news. Britain, is Britain in the audience tonight? I got some bad news for you, Britain. Currently, 14 people are now being tested for the coronavirus. That would be, I guess that'd be 18 altogether, wouldn't it? 14 being tested, 4 in the and 4 in Scotland. Does the 14 include the 4? Let's just say 14 altogether. 4 in Scotland, 10 in Britain. 14 people in the UK are now being tested. I told you it was that Chinese bitch that went to France. She had a stopover flight before she got to France, and somehow she infected 14 people. Oh, where's Typhoid Mary? Let me pull that shit up. Here we go. Spreading death and pestilence where she goes. Yeah, let's get a rip for the Brit bongs. A bong or two in silence as everything goes to shit for them. You know, the Australia one popped up and said they had a case, and I think they've now deconfirmed it. I think what really happened was the Australian health authorities took the infected Aussie and threw him into one of those forest fires that's raging across that fucking continent. Be grateful that all your eucalyptus trees exploded into a hellfire, because at least you have a way of disposing of this virus before it overtakes you. Sure, it may kill off a few bajillion wallabies and kangaroos, but you can just huck the sick people into the bushfire, into the fire tornadoes ravaging you, and survive. That's right, Chad. Cleanse it with fire. It's the only way to survive. Takes strength of will to survive the Wu flu. I'd recommend reading some manga, which is what I've been doing way too much. By the way, I don't know how many of you actually use this, but I've noticed some problems with my anime list. Maybe this is just me, but it's like half the shit I read isn't fucking in their database, and it's starting to fuck with me a little bit. Now, do they particularly hate manhwa? Do they not like South Korean manga? Because it seems like every one of those that I've read, they don't have it in there. From Skeleton Soldier to The Beginning After the End to just a whole host of shit won't show up when I try to use it. Not sure exactly why that is. A little bit of a pain in the ass. What was a recent one I read? The Legendary Moonlight Sculptor, which I liked, but again, another one that I for whatever reason could not find when I went looking for it. I need to find a better weeb repository. Oh, somebody said manhwa are trash. I don't know how to respond to that. I don't pick on the handicapped. Okay, why don't you have your father turn your wheelchair around so you're not watching the stream? And then you can be left in your own thoughts and think about Legos. Fuck you, manhwa's great. Spitting on my taste. I bet you watch Neon Genesis Evangelion, don't you? Oh, I think it's real neato. They got all those big mech machines, and I sure do love Shinji. He's a manly man. Love when Shinji cries? Yeah, I said your taste was shit. Your waifu's a whore. You probably like some bitch in a harem manga. Get away from me with your pleb taste. Regardless, I need to find a better repository. Or find a way to expand theirs.